Okay, here are our notes for today. We just went through a unit on finding or graphing the equation of a line using different methods. So we did a t-chart, we did a intercept, and we did slope intercept. So in the past, I just put this picture over here. In the past, what we have done is I have asked you, we've looked at this graph. So let's look at this white line here. In the past, if I were to say, find the equation of this line, you would have had to tell me two things. So one, you'd have to find out what the slope was. And then the second thing was we had to find out what the y-intercept was. Okay, you don't have to write anything down right now. We'll wait till the next slide, but I just want to give you an introduction as to where we're going today. So in order to figure out the equation of this line, we had to find our slope and our intercept, which if you remember in our big equation of slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b. And if you remember, m was our slope and our y-intercept was our b. So we needed to find these two things in order to make the equation of the line. So if we just had to guess with this, we would say maybe our intercept is at 1, at 0, 1. So our b is probably at 1 or 0, 1. And then our slope, maybe we could think the same thing, going up 1 over 1. You could think here you're going down 1 to the left 1. So either way, we're going to say that our slope is 1. And then there were questions I asked you then, okay, well, if you know the slope, you know the intercept, what's the equation of the line? And so when we found the equation of the line, if you remember, we kept the y and the x the way that it was, but we substituted in the m and the b. Okay, so we had this kind of like our skeleton for our formula, and we plugged in what our m and our b was for these equations. And so in this case, it would be y equals 1x plus 1, or most times we don't write this one, we would just write y equals x plus 1. So I want you to keep this in your head because this is the goal today. We're going to find the equation of a line, but this time we're not going to have a graph. We're just going to have information. We're just going to have numbers. And so we have to use those numbers and algebraically, hence the title of this lesson, find the equation of a line algebraically, which you will want to write down. We have to do that using our clever formulas. So this is all going to be using algebra instead of using a graph. Okay, let's get started. Let's go on to our next slide. Okay, so I'm going to do two examples. There are two different types of ways to do this. So I'm going to do two examples of each. So the first one I would suggest you just write down and listen. And the second one you can maybe try on your own and then wait for my answer just so you can practice by yourself. Okay, so our first example says we want to find the equation of a line that has a slope of 2 and passes through the point 2, 5. So I'm just going to write this down and remembering in our heads that we want to come up with y equals mx plus b. Okay, and we want to fill in these blanks here that I'm drawing, these little black lines underneath. We want to find what is our m and what is our b. So let's go back and think about what we have. So we find the equation of the line that has a slope of 2. So we know right there that is my m. Okay, so I know what my m is, my slope. So I'm going to write a 2 in here. I already know that. Okay, now what I have, if I go look at my next information, is I have a point. Well, the point, the letters in a point aren't b, right? The letters in the point are x, y. So here's where I have to do something a little bit clever with my equation because I have an m, I have an x, and I have a y, but I have no b. So in this example, I have to find b. So how in the heck am I going to do that? Well, let's rewrite this equation, y equals mx plus b. Okay, if I rewrite this equation, I have all the letters in this formula except b. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to substitute those three values in. My m is 2, so I'm going to take this m out, okay, and I'm going to write a 2 in its spot. So instead of m, I'm just going to directly below write a 2. Okay, I know up here that my x is also 2, so I'm going to write m, which is 2, times x, which is also 2. So I'm just plugging my values in. So again, m is 2, x is 2, so it's 2 times 2 plus b. And then I know my y is 5, so I'm going to write, instead of a y, I'm going to take that y out and plug in 5 in its spot. Okay, so let's do that again. Make sure we understand where we're coming from. So M was 2, so I put a 2 in the M spot. X was also 2, so I'm going to multiply 2 times 2. And my Y is 5, so I'm going to place the 5 here on the left-hand side of the equal sign where the Y is. Now I'm just going to do a simple kind of one-step equation. If I multiply 2 times 2, I'm going to get 4. And then I will subtract the 4 on each side to get my B. And if I subtract 4 on both sides, I'm going to get B is 1. So now I've done algebra and figured out that B is 1. So now I can come back up here to my equation, put my 1 in the B spot, and now I have found the equation of the line that has a slope of 2 and passes through 2, 5. Okay, let's try another example. This time, if you would like to, you could try this by yourself and then pause it if you'd like and come back to my explanation. So I'm going to always write up here y equals and then fill in the blank x plus fill in the blank. Okay, I need to find m and b. Okay, so in this example, again, we're given that we have a slope of -1/2. That's my m. So I can go ahead and put my -1/2 over here. Okay, and once again, we don't have our b, but we have an x and a y. Okay, we have an x and a y. X is 6 and y is -8. So if I write my equation, y equals mx plus b, now I'm going to make a substitution with the letters that I know. So I'm substituting these numbers into the letters in this formula that I already know. So I know that my y is -8. So I'm going to write -8 under the y because I'm plugging it in. My m is -1/2. So I'll write -1/2 under the m. I'm multiplying it by the x because they're right next to each other, which is 6. So times 6 and putting parentheses around it. So that way I know I'm multiplying it. And now I just need to solve. So first I want to do -1/2 times 6. So all I'm doing is taking half of 6, which is 3, but I need to make it negative. Okay, so I have -8 equals -3 plus b. Now I'm going to add the 3 to both sides. And I will have b equals -5. So that is my b. And now I just have to come up to the top here, finish my equation. So probably I'm not going to write plus -5. It will just be y equals -1/2 x minus 5. You don't usually put the plus negative. You don't do a double signage there. So it'll just be y equals -1/2 x minus 5 is my final answer for this problem. Okay, so those two examples, 1 and 2, were one type of equation problem. Now let me show you the second type, which isn't more difficult. It just takes an extra step. Okay, let's take a look at this one. So this one says, I want you to find the equation of a line that passes through 3, 8 and 7, 12. So what is my issue here? Because this isn't the same one that I just did, right? The one I just did was really nice and it gave us what my m was. But in this situation, it did not give us what our m was. So we don't have our m or our b. So what are we going to do? Hopefully there's a math alert, a math buzzer going off in your head that although we don't have the slope, we know that if we have 2 points here, an x and a y and an x and a y, that we can use the slope formula to come up with our slope, our m. So recall that the slope formula m equals y minus y over x minus x. Okay, so I know that you can have y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. I'm just being a little, let's not say lazy, efficient. Okay, so I'm going to take my y's and subtract them at the top. So we'll go 12 minus 8 at the top. And then I'll take my x's at the bottom. So we'll go 7 minus 3 at the bottom. So 12 minus 8 gives me 4. 7 minus 3 gives me 4. So my slope, if I divide it out, is a 1. Okay, so now I have my slope, so I can come put that over here in my equation. Now, again, we don't usually write the 1, so I'll write it again more properly when we finish finding the b. Now, to find the b, we just go back to what we just did in the last step. So that would be, I'm going to take my slope. So now I have my m is 1, but now look, I have 2 x's and I have 2 y's. How do I know which one do I pick to plug into my y equals mx plus b? Guess what? It doesn't matter. You can pick either one of them and you will get the same answer. And I'm going to go ahead and prove it to you. So I'm going to write this out twice and just show you that it doesn't matter which one you pick. You will still get the same b as long as you do the math correctly. So in this one over here, I'm going to plug in 3, 8. And this one here, I'm going to plug in 7, 12. So it does not matter which one you pick. I typically like to pick the ones that are always positive or have the 0 in it or something like that. But these are both positive, so we're just going to pick them both. Okay, so let's go with the 3, 8. So if I plug this one in, remember my 8 is my y. So I'm going to plug it in as 8 equals m of 1 times x, which is 3, plus b. So I'm going to skip this step in my head because 1 times 3 is just 3. So I'm going to subtract 3 from both sides, and I get b is 5. So let's see if I plug in 7, 12, if I'm still going to get the same answer. So y is 12, so I'll plug that in. So 12 equals my m is 1, my x is 7, and my b is b. Okay, again, do it in my head. 1 times 7 is just 7. So I'm just going to subtract 7 on both sides. And I get b is 5. Look at that. Okay, so it doesn't matter which one you pick. You do not have to pick both. I'm just letting you know now. I'm just showing you. You just need to pick one. And as long as you do the math correctly, you'll know that it's right. Okay, so my b is 5. I'll place that up here. So more appropriately, I won't mark it wrong, but you don't need to have that 1 in front of the x. You just can have y equals x plus 5. So that would be the equation that goes through those 2 points. And this is my final answer. You must write it as an equation. You can't just find m and b and leave it. They want to know what the equation is. Okay, one more example. And if you would like to pause and try this one by yourself first to see if you get the correct answer. Before we go on to the homework problems, you can do that. Okay, so I'm going to come up here and write again, y equals mx plus b. And so this one was just like example 3. Whoops, let me back that up. I don't want that there. I want a blank. Right? So first thing we want to do, like our last problem, is we want to find the slope first. Okay, I'm not going to write the equation down. I'm just going to go for it. So it's y minus y. So -2 minus 4. So here are my y's here. So -2 minus 4 over my x's of 2 minus 0. My x's will be 2 minus 0. Okay, so at the top, we're going to have -2 minus 4 gives me -6. And then on the bottom, 2 minus 0 is 2. So -6 divided by 2 gives me a -3. Okay, so my m is -3. I'm going to go ahead and put that into my formula up here. And now I need to find b. So again, you can pick either one. I'm not going to show you this time that they both work. I'm just going to pick one. I'm going to pick 0, 4. Again, I always like to pick the numbers that are positive and or have a 0 because then things cancel and it's kind of nice. So again, let's write our equation, y equals mx plus b. I know that my y that I picked is 4, so I'm going to write a 4 there. My m is -3, so I'll write my -3 for m. My x is 0 plus b. So this works out really nicely because these cancel, and we just know that our b is 4. Okay, so take that b, put it on up in here in our formula. And so my final answer is that y equals -3x plus 4. That is the equation that goes through the 2 points they gave me. All right, so you've just learned 2 ways to find the equation of a line algebraically. The first way, if we back it up just to review, the first way, like example 2 and 1, was I gave you m, x and y, you had to find b. The second way was like example 3 and 4, where I didn't give you m or b and you had to find both of them algebraically. Okay, so to cap it off, these are your homework problems. So I would go ahead and just hit pause now. I would copy these down, these 4 problems for homework, and then have them ready to go when I see you again in the next class. Please email me if you have any questions. Good luck.